Welcome back to the Learn with Dylan show. Today, I have a very special guest on, William, who I just randomly reached out to after I think you shot me a message on Instagram after
Yeah,
seeing that I liked one of Peter Crone's videos.
yeah.
I can't exactly remember what he was talking about, but he's a very wise guy. So
I love it.
thank you for joining me today, William. One of the main things that we wanted to speak on today was your journey around obviously personal development, spirituality, and we've got a few main topics that we'd like to run over. So the foundational relationship we have with ourselves and how that shapes the world and what it means to actually live like from our authentic self. The second one is your own journey, like into your work and your desire to serve others, which is great.
Mm,
And the third one is around the truth of building a coaching business.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'd love to get you to just give a little bit of a spiel of who you are and a bit of your background, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Um, so I am a transformational coach. I really help people rediscover themselves. I think that what happens when we're very young, usually around the age of 4, we create a framework for the world. And as we create that framework, we also kind of separate ourselves. And that's usually in desire to serve somebody else, usually our parents. And we create a version of ourselves that we think is going to please them. And in doing so, we actually abandon who we really are. And this continues for years, usually decades, until we reach a point where we realize that something's out of alignment. We've lost connection to this kind of innate joy and freedom that we had back then because we've created all of these rules and different lenses to view the world through. And it's actually causing us pain and lots of hindrances along the way. And so, really, the process of what I do is to bring people back to that energy, to reconnect with this inner child, which we carry with us continuously and is continuously trying to communicate with us. But because of our programming back then, we determined that it wasn't safe to stay in communication with that part of ourselves. So, by bridging that gap, we really find the full expansive nature of our natural being. And we're able just to move through the world in a completely different way that feels far more aligned to who we truly are.
Mm, that's great. And we are definitely going to delve into the inner child. So I'd love to, yeah, get you to paint your journey of
Mm.
what got you into this work that you now help others with. Like, because you did send me a bit of a voice note explaining that you've done a few things. You've gone through existential crisis, suicidal depression
Yeah,
as well. So, yeah, floor is yours.
sure. Yeah, I so hmm, about 12 years ago, I sat my first uh meditation retreat, a 10-day silent meditation retreat, and that was really not something that I'd been leading up to in any way. It was literally just me being plunged in the deep end, and it was a real wake up. There was a huge shift that happened, but I wasn't intellectually capable of understanding what that was, but I could just feel it somewhere deep within me that something had changed and that I was at the beginning of some sort of journey which I had to undertake, an inner journey. And so I knew that it was something profound, though, this idea of kind of meditating, even though I couldn't fully conceive of exactly what it was, even having done 10 days of it continuously. Um, And so I began to orient my life towards that, and everything kind of slowly and quickly became all about that. And I very much became tunnel vision on meditation and just started sitting as many courses as I could, volunteering, and this was around the world, doing it in different places, and really trying to, I don't know, purify myself was really the terminology that was used in this particular tradition. And I think I very much got lost in that, in terms of I was creating a version of myself again that I thought would please other people. Apart from this time, it was all wrapped up in the spirituality. So it
Mm.
was kind of like, okay, there's this calmer version of me that's connected to nature and this free flowing kind of thing. And there was definitely something true about that, but there was also something somewhat performative about it.
Mm.
And I got locked in this idea of, and I think from, again, from very early childhood, I got locked in this idea of perfectionism and wanting to live the correct life. And I think when I found meditation, I was like, okay, this is it. This is the correct life. This is the right way to live. And there was a kind of almost prescription as to how you did this, like 2 hours a day. And I created all of these extra rules that I imposed upon myself in terms of how I had to live in the world. And there was this huge amount of attachment to piousness and to kind of doing things in a way that made me put myself up on some sort of pedestal, which again was massively unhealthy.
Mm.
And so I continued this for years and started doing longer and longer courses, 20 days, 30 days, 45 days of silent meditation, no interaction with humans. And I just kept on getting more and more into it. And and everything else in my life just drifted away. Like I had no interest in anything other than just this path that I was on. And after the 45-day silent retreat, I was convinced that having conversations with other humans was essentially pointless,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was just like, I have nothing to gain from this. I have everything to gain from diving further and further into my own psyche.
Yeah.
Thought that the best thing to do was to find a hermitage where I could just meditate by myself in seclusion, because even the idea of being of service, of volunteering at these meditation centers, of helping them run for other people, felt like I was sacrificing myself from my own benefit, from my own journey.
Mm.
And so I I don't really believe this, but there's a kind of interesting idea that I have, because just as I was thinking all of this stuff, I was out in South America, and just as I was thinking that I wanted to get away from humans, that I wanted to have a hermitage of my own, COVID struck.
Mm.
And I ended up being in a meditation center in the middle of the Peruvian desert for 7 months by myself. So
That's
you've got to be
insane.
very careful what you wish for.
Yeah. I've heard that saying before. It's a great saying. You got to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, yeah.
I love
Because
that.
I got it in abundance, and to begin with, it was beautiful until it wasn't.
Mm.
And then I just kind of hit what I consider to be some sort of mental brick wall, where everything I was doing had been in a very controlled way, in terms of I was always in control, but this was a situation in which I wasn't in control. I wasn't able to leave whenever I wanted to. I was stuck there. And I think that lack of freedom freaked something inside of me out. And so I started unraveling over the next few months that I was there. Um, and when I finally returned to London, yeah, very soon meditation fell off the radar, and I just headed into a really deep episode of suicidal and existential depression.
Mm.
And that just kept on rolling for about 3 years. I was just kind of stuck in this cycle of feeling like I was starting to get my head above the water and then being dragged right back down again. And at the same time, I was desperate to actually be of utility in the world, to be of service. So I started going into healthcare, working in hospitals during COVID, working in uh, care homes with elderly people with dementia. And again, there was a great sense of beauty to that and real tangibility to the effect that I was having on people. But I was getting burnt out on top of being massively depressed. And so it was this really dangerous mixture of things.
Mhm.
And then at the beginning of 23, I genuinely felt like I had weeks left. Um, and yeah, I'm not totally clear on exactly what happened because all of these things happen in on so many different levels. But I managed to get myself to a sharing circle, ACA. It's like a branch off of Alcoholics Anonymous, adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. It's essentially a trauma circle, really, where you can just share your experiences and hear from other people. And I'd never been to anything like that before. I'd had deep conversations with other meditators, but I'd never seen it in just people that I would pass by on the street. Um, and it was really amazing to have that experience because it made me not feel like an alien anymore. It validated that what I was going through was a really human experience. And I think one of the biggest things from my experience within depression is the lack of human it makes you feel. You feel like this complete outsider with no kind of contact with anything. Um, and off the back of the ACA meetings, I then found my life coach who really opened me up to lots of the methods which I use now, like internal family systems and compassionate inquiry by Gabor Mate. Um, and just going through a process with her for literally a matter of weeks changed my perspective so greatly and allowed me to reinterpret so many events that had happened over the years, over the decades, over my entire life, and really allowed me to start seeing things differently and particularly seeing myself differently, relating to myself differently. And yeah, and then I I kind of went on this journey of self-love and really trying to not even trying, just it was this releasing of trying. It was this idea. My entire intention was to start being gentle with myself. That was kind of the umbrella term that I had over everything. And as I continued down that path, it just seemed like if I was going to do something in this world to actually contribute fully, like contribute everything of me, it would be essentially in the way in which I'm doing so now. And yeah. And then I went on the path of trying to learn how to start a business in the age in which we live and getting involved in everything that that entails.
Oh, I love that you have been on a bit of a journey, and I can relate to. I actually did a Buddhist retreat.
Mhm,
I did it for 4 days though.
mhm.
I could have stayed around for 10 days, but I had to get back to work. So I did it for 4 days. Same thing. I couldn't talk to anyone. It was funny though. They have amazing food. Like where I went, the food was amazing. So it's so interesting that you did 45 days or you did 7 months in total when you got stuck. Was that right?
I mean, that definitely wasn't under retreat settings. I
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
I created retreat settings for myself for a few weeks,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
I realized that wasn't sustainable. Yeah,
Yeah.
I realized everything wasn't sustainable, to be honest.
That's all right. Well, you're here now and you're here to serve as
Mm,
that's one of the main things we'll go over today. So one thing I'd love to talk about is your journey with your inner child and
mm.
what your coach taught you and how that has helped you. So if you don't mind sharing, like do you mind sharing a little bit about
Absolutely.
your personal experience with like reconnecting with your inner child and what your coach taught you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't exactly know where to start. Um, Yeah. I think it starts with the kind of stories that we tell ourselves and these narratives that we've got lost in over a lifetime. Um, for me, as I alluded to before, there was lots of kind of ideas around perfectionism. And I think the root of perfectionism is this feeling that you're not enough. This feeling that something has to be done. I realized that my childhood was based on performance. Like I literally did musical theatre and theatre kind of things as a child, and lots of singing and this kind of thing. And I very much felt like there was this aspect of me performing even when I wasn't on stage, performing to please my father, to be what I thought he wanted from me, performing for what I think my brother wanted from me. And again, this is something that didn't stop within childhood. It's something that continued well after I started meditation. And there are still certainly remnants of it now. I was saying to you just before we started, there's this kind of idea of who am I having to perform today on this podcast? Or when I record a video, do I have to be in a certain mindset to do it? I want to kind of present a certain version of me. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just being able to recognize that, to being able to recognize everything, to actually understand what truth is and what are the things that you've put on top of truth, what are the lenses that you've brought in, how are you perceiving that truth, because that perception is the thing that changes everything. That's the thing that either binds you or sets you free. It's the truth is totally, it's not good or bad, it's just truth. And we ascribe labels to it. And it's really freeing when we stop doing that and we just go, cool, this is it. Right. So this is my starting point, is this moment right now where I currently find myself. I can only move from this point. I can't move from a point that I'm not at yet because I'm not there. I don't know what it would be like to be at that point and to move from there. Whereas it makes everything so much easier the moment that we let go of the facades. Years ago, I stopped with the meditation. There was this idea of to abstain from lying, to tell the truth continuously. And when I finally bought into that idea of being able to be actually truthful, particularly with my parents, not creating a certain version of them, but exposing to them what I'd actually done through my life in terms of my use of drugs and all of these kind of things, just allowed me so much more freedom because I didn't have to censor myself. I didn't have to create a certain version or kind of close myself in any way because I was able just to be present with them and to share what's actually going on. And it has transformed our relationship so beautifully over the last decade or so, this idea of being truthful with them. And then after going into all of this inner child work and talking to them about it as well, my mum more so than my father, but I've broached the subject with both of them. And it's so beautiful just to be able to come from this place of honesty when you're communicating with people. Ultimately, I believe what we want from any relationship is just transparency and clarity. We don't want someone to say what we want them to say. We don't want someone to say something that will please us. We just want to know truth because otherwise we're dancing all around the actual truth. And that's exhausting.
Mm.
I don't think I answered your question there.
No, that was beautiful anyway. And one thing I heard before, which I think's such a good way to say it, is like depression is suppression, and the opposite of that is to express yourself
Yeah, yeah,
instead
absolutely.
of suppressing yourself. It's good to be expressive, as you said.
Yeah, yeah. I think depression is, in large part, is us having suppressed who we truly are for so long,
Mm,
and our body finally saying, "Nah,
Yeah.
I can't keep up this charade any longer. I need to be me.
Mm,
I need you to remember who you are.
mm,
Like that there's this idea that depression is a negative thing. It's a really, really useful thing because it's your body just sending out this huge alarm, this massive signal to you saying, wake up. You need to find out what it is that you need to do in order to get realigned with who you truly are again.
mm,
Because something has gone wildly off track. You've been trying to please others for so long. You've been trying to do this version of you that just doesn't work.
mm,
And when we finally are truthful, honest, vulnerable about what's really going on inside of us, instead of, again, for me, I would go to work and pretend that I was fine because I didn't think that I had space to be truthful with people about that.
mm,
And the truth is that people want to interact with genuine human beings. We don't want to interact with versions of people that are pretending to be better than they are. That really isn't interesting, I don't think, to anyone. We want to see what's actually going on with people. The moment that a friend of you, that you're sitting with a friend, the moment that they cry, there's such a deepening of friendship there immediately. And that happens across the board. It's not just in terms of sadness, it's in terms of anything, but it's allowing the truth to come through. That's what's transformative. And yeah, I just think that it's an incredibly beautiful thing when we truly come in line with what's going on inside of us and we're able to interpret it and express it. And when we can fully understand what's going on inside of us, because and that takes language as well. It children have this incredible ability to feel, but they don't have the language for it. So they shut various parts of themselves down and then never build up language for it. And then we grow up and we arrive at the age of 25, 35, 45, whatever it is. And there are all of these things that go on within us that we have no language for. And so we find it really hard, even just to understand what's going on. And so it's about essentially giving you a brand new vocabulary to understand what's going on inside of you.
I love that. And I can see that you're very passionate about all of this, which is
Thank you.
great. It's great. We'll jump into the truth about building a coaching business,
Mhm.
but you can obviously dabble around inner child work as well. So, and personal development, spirituality. What has your journey been like building a coaching business?
I think a lot of it comes down to expectations. Recently, and again, it's this progressive thing where there are new insights that come as you do it from anything that you really experience in life. You learn as you go. And it's really just been a process of releasing, of releasing desires and expectations that I have, and just accepting the actual commitment that it is. So instead of something having to happen on a particular time frame that's in my preference, rather it's saying, and this is going back to, Stoic philosophy, I guess, in some sense, and also Buddhism in another, in terms of all we can do is what we can do. We don't control the outcome. We don't control other people's response to what we do. We can only control what we are actually capable of, the actions that we take. And again, I've due to the amount of perfectionism that I had as a child and all of these different things that I had in place, I rarely did anything because I was so terrified of it not being perfect that I would just not want to do things. Like, I've never had a problem working in jobs for other people, but doing anything actually for myself has been incredibly difficult. So it's been a real journey, and I've been doing this for a little more, maybe 14 months now or so since I actually started. And it's been really interesting to see me build up the actual habits of what I now believe to be things that are actually going to be beneficial in the long run.
Mm.
And a large part of that is the idea of serving your future self. What can I do today that would be of most service to, the version of me that wakes up tomorrow, or the version of me that wakes up in 5 years' time or 10 years' time or whenever? How do I serve that person? Because it's really easy for me to conceive of how I serve somebody in a hospital, or how I serve somebody that has basic needs that they need met. But I started to, think about how I could actually be of service to myself. And there've been moments where, all of the old stuff comes back online, and it's just like, quit. Just get out of it. You're failing. This isn't good. There are bad sensations. You're feeling overwhelmed and all of that kind of thing. And at moments like that, it's been really useful to go through various writing techniques, like asking what I'm doing this for. Because then I'll write a list of the reasons why I actually want to do this. And it just reignites my motivation. And yeah, I feel really, really happy right now, really contented in terms of what I'm currently doing. It feels like everything is, I have ideas for what I'm doing every single day, and that flows. It's not so rigidly structured. There's movement within it, but I think perhaps only within the last month have I really got a clear kind of daily routine down after a year or so of doing various things and seeing what is work, like or rather seeing what works and
Mm.
what is just busy work. Because we can continuously do things and kind of say, oh, well, I've done this, here's this whole tick list of the things that I've done. But what has actually been beneficial? What's actually moving you in the direction you want to go to? And yeah, I I really I'm really grateful for where I currently am. I feel like there's this just sense of relief that has come over me in the last month in terms of I now know the daily steps I'm taking. So there's much less stress about when I will get where I'm wanting to get to. It's this resolve that I'm going to get there. I don't know when. I'm not in charge of the time, but I am in charge of showing up every day in the best way I can, of serving my tomorrow self, of my 3-month self, of my year self. And my passion and desire to be of service to people, particularly, I spend lots of time making videos, and as seems to be the essential thing to do nowadays in order to grow a business or potentially. And I found a way to really love doing that on the basis of which I do it. Because at the beginning, there was a great freedom around it. I would just set up a camera, start filming, and start talking. And I liked the fact that it was just pure, unedited, authentic me. But after a few weeks, after a few weeks, I realized I don't know what I could talk about that I haven't already talked about. So there was this idea of then needing more structure in order to kind of dive deeper into certain things. But then I got kind of thrown off the route of of trying to create far too much structure. And then everything felt so rigid, and I was trying to do a one take in 10 minutes of an entire script that I'd learnt, and it was just causing me so much frustration. I'd sit for 4 hours recording, just kind of beating myself up, and then instantly kind of coming back into, okay, and now. And it was just so painful.
Mm.
So I went through that for months as well, of just not really knowing how to do it. And yeah, again, within the last 6 weeks, something just changed, and I found a way to make it work way better for me. Um, but and I really love all of that aspect. Filming and editing, I think, is something that I just really get lost in. It's just the flow of writing scripts, of making thumbnails, of editing videos. I think it's really. I think I've wanted to dive into that creative process for years, and it's really nice to have something that I'm genuinely passionate about, that I believe has true value, and then kind of shaping that into something that I am really happy and excited to present with the world, to the world. But the thing that really lights me up is working one on one with people. That is the work which that's the service that I ultimately want to be of. Um, and again, going back to my time working in healthcare and things, there was a great sense of pride and, yeah, a great sense of self-love just from knowing the benefit that I've been to a certain person that day, or whatever it had been, even something small. But I felt so drained by the end of that. Whereas when I work one-on-one with people, the energy that I have coming out of those calls, coming out of an hour or hour and a half long session with somebody, is immense. It's so so powerful to be of service in this way to people, to see them connect with something that they haven't connected to in literally decades, and seeing their face shift, seeing their energy shift in real time within 45 minutes of being on a call with them. Even if I've started that call thinking that there's perhaps this person isn't going to connect with what I'm talking about at all, and then 45 minutes in, they're in tears, or they've just connected to this part of themselves that allows them to remember who they really are. And I don't think there's anything greater that I've experienced than that in this lifetime yet, of being able to be a conduit for people to reconnect with themselves.
I love that. That's so good. And I feel like that would be a great way to end this podcast, is
Mhm.
for people to reach out to you for your help, or just to have a bit of a chat. Where would they contact you?
So I have a website, which is followwhatresonates.com. There's my email address on there, and you can also look in my calendar and book a one-on-one session with me. Um, I'm also heavily using, heavily using, sounds like I have some sort of habit there. But yeah, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. YouTube is where I post all my long form content, unsurprisingly. And that is William Sidgwick.
Okay. I'll post it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I'll send you the links. Yeah.
Awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on and learn more about you today.
No, it's been a
And
pleasure. Then.
no worries. And I'll catch you next time.
Beautiful.
All right.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Thank you.